Well, it's confirmed. The press release has been leaked and the new Canon R5, R6 and 1DX Mark III will get additional features on December the 2nd, 2001. You may have heard the breaking news, but today I'll cover it in more detail and hopefully answer a few of your questions. Autofocus is the big update, but there are a few other useful items to cover. Let's look into that. Hi, I'm Tom and welcome to Rumour Has It. Let's have a detailed look at what each camera is getting, as Canon bring meaningful improvements to all three cameras. We'll not only look at what's not been included, but also consider why the 1DX Mark III is missing out. With 12 changes to cover, let's get right into it. Item 1. Change the settings for simultaneous recording and current drive during remote operation. This comes to the R5, R6 and 1DX Mark III. I expect it to do exactly as it says, allowing changes to the yellow menu, page 1, settings in folders and cards, so it can be changed when tethered. Item 2. Disable the multi-controller for FTP transfers. This is on the R5, R6 and 1DX Mark III. It also ties in with item 3, which changes the default from active to passive for the FTP server. And this is on the R5, R6 and 1DX Mark III. These last two changes prevent accidentally transferring images with the multi-controller when transfer to set is set for FTP. This must have been annoying to all those agency photo editors. And that brings us to item 4. Enhanced recognition of subjects. This includes vehicle and body detection, and it comes to the R5 and R6. This brings the new subjects shown in the R3 release videos, like racing cars and bikes. It'll also bring it into line with the Nikon Z9 promos we've seen recently. Now looking at item 5. Improvements to face and eye detection with mask, and this comes to the R5 and R6. This brings enhancements to the already excellent AF tracking on these cameras, with improvements to eye detection even when the subject is wearing a mask, as well as adding to body detection. So if you lose the eye, you get the head. If you lose the head, you get the body. Hopefully it also stops my R5 AF from locking onto a dog's rear end. I'll spare you that photo. Now looking at item 6. Adding white capture mode to live view. This allows manual white balancing. This is a much requested feature, with the ability to set a custom white balance in live view being top of most people's list, especially wedding photographers. Again, this is the R5 and R6. Moving on to item 7, which is adding an EVS smooth function to suppress lower frame rates in low light. And this is on the R5 and R6 again. This means we'll see less judder when shooting in low light, where the EVF might have less than optimum frame rates. Now looking at item 8, full-time manual focus support for the RF70-200 f4. Again, this is the R5 and R6. This allows manual focusing even when AF is selected. A few lens reviewers made a lot of noise about this, and hopefully they'll be happy now. It's a lens I'm thinking about purchasing, so you may see it in future videos. Item 9 is only for the R5, and it brings compatibility with the new dual fisheye lens, the RF 5.2 f2.8L. I'm guessing the R5's 45 megapixel resolution means it's the only camera in the current lineup suitable for this lens. Now with item 10, the 1DX Mark III gets some love. We're adding a setting to enable image and voice memos to be on the same button. The 1DX Mark III had separate buttons, and now you'll be able to activate this with only one button. And that brings us to item 11. I changed the default power saving settings for the FTP transfers from use to not to use. This is 1DX Mark III only. No doubt this is based on feedback from pro news and sports photographers who prize full power and instant access to FTP above battery life. Now item 12. It brings enhanced head detection for winter sports athletes who are wearing goggles, and this is for the 1DX Mark III only. This means the R3, R5 and R6 now have superior autofocus to the current flagship. But more about that later. The firmware will be available to download from the 2nd of December from your regional online support centre. Now getting back to that flagship. The strange thing here is that despite having the same processor and sensor as the R6, the 1DX Mark III doesn't get all the AF improvements. This probably means that Canon made other changes to optimise the electronics for the R5 and the R6 after the 1DX Mark III design was locked down. And this has led to possible improvements in the R5 and R6 which are not backwards compatible with the 1DX Mark III. I'm sure Canon will pack this and more into the R1 when it's finally announced. And now let's consider why the EOS R and RP users were left out. I've seen a few users complaining about it. It's simple really. Canon have effectively signalled that all Digic 8 cameras will only get bug fixes, and even then only if they're major. Canon are devoting all their efforts to cameras using the Digic X processor, and with the imminent replacement for the R and RP, rolling both into one low-cost entry model, it's no surprise that Canon are concentrating their efforts elsewhere. So what's missing? Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the 30-minute record time. This much requested feature to level the playing field with other brands is missing from this update. And it's no surprise really. With the R5C on the horizon, it's unlikely that Canon would eat into possible sales for that camera. It seems Canon have reserved the unlimited recording for flagships and cameras with the C classification only. The other biggie for some was the point metering for exposure. This is a much requested addition for bird photographers, and despite workarounds like bracketing, many still yearn for this. It's puzzling that Canon have not responded. Maybe more people need to raise feature requests with Canon. Then there's electronic shutter speed, with many users complaining that 20 frames per second is too fast. Yes, of course you can use the electronic first curtain at 12 frames per second, but that's not silent. The best option, and perhaps the real reason Canon don't offer this, is that the shutter button is user controllable. It's perfectly possible to take between 1 and 5 shots, or 1 and 20 shots depending on how heavy you are on the shutter button. On this channel I try to give you more than just breaking news and rumours. If you appreciate this approach, please help me achieve my target of 500 subs before the end of the year. I'm nearly there. Now why not try this video next, which YouTube thinks will interest you, or perhaps this one might suit you better. And thanks for watching Rumour Has It. I hope you'll be back soon.